going to go ahead. If you're here for strategic planning strategies, you are in the right place. I'm going to introduce Brian Burgess. He's the Vice President of the National Council. He's also on the Board of Directors for SVDP Disaster Services Corporation. He's the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee, both for the National Council and the Disaster Services Corporation. He's been at Vincent for 20 years, and he's served in multiple roles: diocesan, district, conference president, and mentor, peer review committee. And he attended the Society's leadership program, the Invitation for Renewal, in 2010. And for any of those of you that haven't been to that, I highly recommend it, as I'm sure he will. So always keep that in mind if you haven't been there. So with that said, Brian, I'm turning it over to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for coming tonight and for joining the regional meeting. Just writ large here, it is so important. These regional meetings are very important to the function of our National Council. So, and great to get people together, even virtually. And also, I am from Louisiana, so Diocese of Shreveport. So this is my home region too. So happy. We'll start with a prayer, and I'll read this. You can read along in silence, and it'll get us started. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Open my eyes that I may see the deepest needs of men, women, and children. Move my hands that they may feed the hungry. Touch my heart that it may bring warmth to the despairing. Teach me the generosity that welcomes strangers. Let me share my possessions with people in need. Give me the care that strengthens the sick. Help me to share in the quest to set prisoners free. In sharing our anxieties and our love, our poverty and our prosperity, we partake of your divine presence. Amen. All right. So again, this is a strategic planning discussion. I wanted to go through a few things this evening, just sort of my thoughts and on strategy in general, and the process involved. And there's a number of different ways that you can tackle both, and just gives some of my thoughts and throw out some best practices, throw out what we have done as we develop the National Council plans and the DSC plan as well. And I'll sort of weave the National Council's plan in our discussion this evening as I talk. And at the end, do a quick review of some other plans, CGI being one, and a few others, and then sum it all up. So I do have to start with that great sage, Dilbert and Wally there. So here's what he thinks about strategic planning. I'm thinking of getting into the strategic planning game. If I understand the job description, you basically hallucinate about the future and then something different happens. As is often the case with Dilbert, he's onto something. We do want to try and project and see what we think the future is going to look like, and adapt our mission, our strategies, our goals, objectives to get there. But things are going to change, and Lord, I think we all know that, especially in the past year and a half. So. But we can be prepared to adapt to that change. I want to start with a couple inspirational, I guess, notes. Simon Sinek, who a number of y'all probably familiar with him and his work, he came out with something. He had one of the best TED Talks in history, I think, came out in 2009. And he talked about this golden circle. And he broke it down, as you can see there, what, how, and why. And he is very interesting. And his point was to drive home, what inspires people, what inspires people to follow leaders or to buy a product if you're a business selling something, or to join your cause. And his big mantra is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So if that is true, and I believe it is, then we need to understand what our why is, which from a strategic planning perspective, again, looking at broad strategy, that's an important question to answer as a group, whether, and again, I should have, this can apply, we are talking about councils and conferences here and strategic plans. He says, most people, they start with the what. What is it that you do? Sell computers. How do you do it? Well, we've got this great manufacturing. And why do you do it? Well, to make money. And yeah, that's sure, okay, but that's not necessarily inspirational. What he does is he wants people to turn that inside out. Start with the why, then how do you do it, and then you get to the what. And again, people buy what you're selling, if you will, or follow you on the why. And he had some great examples with Apple, Dr. King, the Wright brothers, and went through them. Dr. King in the march in Washington, D.C., 200-some thousand people came with, before the age of social media, so you couldn't set up, meetings and coordinate people through your cell phones and all that back then. Yet he had 250,000 people come, because the people, as Simon Sinek says, they bought into what he was, his inspiration, and what he was, the mission that he was talking about. And it's kind of funny, and Sinek says this, Martin Luther King had I have a dream speech, not an I have a plan speech. So it's a little bit of a dig at the strategic planners, but nevertheless, it's a good point. I like to look at this in terms of, for St. Vincent de Paul, both in terms of, like I said earlier, why do you want to do a plan? Why are you going to have these goals or these objectives? Also helps, I think, in recruiting. If you start your recruiting message to people, we have a thrift store, let's say, and come down and help me give out food to people that come in. We do it. We have this thrift store, and why do we do it? Well, we do it to help the poor, help those in need. Okay, all right, that's good. A lot of people do that. What if you turn it around and say, ask someone, where are you at in your spiritual journey? Would you like to have a chance to experience Christ face to face? Would that move you? We do that in St. Vincent de Paul through our friendship, our service, and our spirituality. And oh, by the way, we do thrift store operations. We do home business. You see, turn it from the inside out. So I think that's a very, very powerful message, both for recruiting people and to consider as you're drawing up your plan. Another one is, this video came to me from Bill Brazier, one of our regional vice presidents, from Dr. Susan Timoney, who's a professor at Catholic University of America. This came out in December, I believe. She talks about the difference between traditional strategic planning and pastoral planning at a parish level, and some of the differences there. There are some similar things that I think we should keep in mind, because she talks about being Christ-centered as you're developing a pastoral plan for church parish, which I think is a good thing for us as St. Vincent de Paul to keep in mind as well. She also talks about the fruit and how sometimes you need to prune things in order for the fruit to grow. The point being, don't try and do too much. And Lord, that's an issue I think we all have and run into. She even talked about Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Somebody had asked her, why don't you, poverty is everywhere in the world, and there's some structural things that we need to tackle to fix that. Why aren't you doing that? And she said, that's very important, but that's not my mission. That's not what I was called to do. So I think that's another thing that would be good for us to remember is, what are we being called to do specifically as you develop your plan at your conference level, at your council level? It's easy for us to try and do too much and get overwhelmed and just throw our hands up, but try and avoid that. Just a couple of reminders, what a strategic plan is or is not, and what it can be. It's not a wish list. It's not, oh, we've got, a list of 50 things we want to do. Let's knock them out. It's certainly not an easy button. Great, we got a plan. Things are just gonna run the course. No, but what it can be is a guide to drive you where you want your conference, where you want your council to go. What kinds of things do you want to do at a strategic level, and lay out a blueprint to get there, and then a way to evaluate what you're doing. Is it working? Are you being successful? Is it not? Are we not reaching more people? Or are we not getting more members? Whatever the goal or objective might be. And then, like I said, to be able to hit and manage changing priorities, because the world we live in dictates that. So just a reminder, our current strategic plan, which expires, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later, this year. We had 5 focus areas, 5 broad focus areas, which, as you'll see, or as probably most of you know, are tied to our mission statement. We had 18 goals and 45 objectives there, as you see. This is a process that we went through as we developed the plan. You see there, started back late 2017 and finished it at the National Assembly that year, 2018. I think these are some broad steps that I think make sense and can certainly be used. Preparation, as you can see there: prepare, listen, envision, plan, and then execute. And most of what we'll be talking about, by the way, is developing the plan, not on the execution side. That's a whole nother conversation. So with preparing, that's things like, do you need to establish a committee? Do you need somebody to head it? Who do you want on that committee? And what kind of budget do you have or timeline do you have to prepare the actual plan itself? Do you have resources to do it? That kind of thing. Listening, that's you can't do this in a vacuum. Obviously, the strategic planning, you need input from all sides that you can get, both internal to St. Vincent de Paul and external. We did, as I'm sure most of y'all know, and probably got the surveys, but we did surveys, both in this juncture with our first plan, and then we just did a whole new round earlier this year. We also did listening sessions at a couple of mid-year meetings, mid-year back in early 2018, and then another one this year, because we are updating the plan. And then envision and planning kind of run together. It's, if you don't have a mission statement or values, that's where you kind of kind of come up with those based on, well, on the first two steps and the feedback that you're getting. Um, um, start putting stuff down on paper. Do your traditional, in quotes, sorry, strategic planning, is SWOT analysis, risk analysis, those sorts of things. And then write it down and refine the plan through the committee, through your leadership, if you have a board of directors at the council level or even the conference level. And then at the end, have it ready to go, get approved, and start executing. Broadly speaking, if you had to, not quite bumper sticker, but if you had to boil down developing the strategy, strategic plans, what is your purpose? Where are you going? Why are you doing this? Going back to that why. Set as clear as you can get them. What are the goals? What are the objectives? What does the end result look like? What are the outcomes? And then manage that as you go on and work the plan. So, like I mentioned earlier, in our case, we started with a mission statement. We actually, if you remember, but 3 years ago, not part of the plan development, but National Council redid our mission statement. So start there, start with the mission, start with what's most important to us, start with Christ and those we serve. The clear goals and outcomes, that's your standard, SMART. Can you identify things that are specific? As you can see, they're measurable, actionable, relevant, timely. Some of those acronyms, the words might change a little bit, but relevant might be realistic. Timely might be time bound, but it's basically, is it important to do? Can you do it in X amount of time, et cetera? So that's where that traditional planning comes in. And then, like I said, the management side, obviously you don't want to just do all this work and then stick this thing on a shelf somewhere and go on about and do your business like you're always doing. That's not the point. You want to make this thing a living thing and use it. We have some software that we use to help visualize the plan and manage it. There's a lot of software out there you can use. This is another thing that we came across and thought a lot about as we developed the first plan. What is a live organization? Thinking of something that's agile, but and this is in a faith-based environment, as you can see by some of the bullets. This came from Sister Karen. A lot of good things there. Don't go detail each one, but things like be open to trying new things, take a risk, new ideas. If something fails, doesn't work, that's okay, as long as you limit, you set, okay, we're going to try this. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, but we're going to learn from it and move on from there. I like this. A live organization has lots of noise, excitement, and confusion around it. That sounds like us sometimes, for sure. But that's try and use that for good. But again, just some ideas, especially the last two bullets there. Engage, be evangelized, be vibrant in our ministry and in our mission. That's important. These are just some of the things that as a national council that we wanted to communicate the importance or why the plan is important to us, to you, to all of us. is to advance the mission. Again, whatever you and the local conference or council, that's number one. The other thing I would say is, and this would be more for maybe the diocesan councils or district councils, the National Council, we exist to serve the lower councils and conferences. A diocesan council or district council exists to serve the conferences or the council and the conferences under their purview. So we took the tack, and I would hope you would too, that what can we do to help? When we did our survey, for example, a number of the questions were framed around that. What can we do to help? And where does it make sense for us to help? Like I said, we did our survey, the initial survey in 2018. We also did one because we are iterating on the plan. Our first plan was, our current plan was 3 years by intent. We're doing phase 2 of that plan now. So we wanted to survey our members and leaders once again. So we did that in April and May. We also did listening sessions, like I mentioned, at mid-year, which were very, very well done. Got a lot of great information. We got a lot of good feedback. I would say at the council and conference level, get some feedback from obviously your internal Vincentians and others, but talk to if you're at a conference level, talk to your pastor. What does your pastor think about St. Vincent de Paul? The council level, talk to your bishop, talk to people in the diocesan office. What do they think about St. Vincent de Paul? That can be very valuable information to get. The other thing I would say about a survey, when you design a survey, design it in such a way that you can get good statistics out of it. So that can be a challenge, but definitely keep that in mind, along with how long do you want this thing to be? How long do you want people to work to sit down and complete your survey? This is just some general ideas. We did a word cloud after our first survey. We didn't do one this time, but that can be a way to have certain themes pop out for you. Now, this is something we just did at the strategic planning committee meeting a couple of weeks ago. We just stole from Shark Tank, and we asked our committee members and this was based on all the feedback, like I said, from the surveys and the listening sessions we did, kind of go through there and see what big ideas did you have. And like Shark Tank, just you got a couple minutes, pitch it to us or pitch it to everyone else. And we had some very good ideas, things like moving beyond parish defined conferences to citywide or Hispanic conference or conferences around special works, et cetera. A national branding effort, a better onboarding process for people coming in, a member marketing month, take 1 month out of the year and have a concerted push for St. Vincent de Paul. The Ozanam Institute was another one. You know, we want to be thought leaders in Catholic social teaching, for example, or Ozanam in the study of him. So those are the kinds of things, and some of that will percolate into the plan itself, the next plan. And this is just something I grabbed from a resource. This is pretty straightforward. Obviously, we're doing strategic planning. We're not doing tactical planning or operational planning. Those are important, but different here. So this is just a little flow chart to help you. Is this something that would impact the long-term success or of our conference, of our council, of our mission? If yes, then move it forward. If no, then do something else with it. So it's just a flow chart that could be helpful, or at least frame thinking as you're strategizing and coming up with goals and objectives. Like I mentioned, there's certainly traditional, again, SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. What kind of environment are we operating in? You need to know that, both locally in your area, in your region, across the country. Basically, think of things that impact us, and more importantly, those we serve. And you can see some of the things there to sort of consider as influencers, environmental pushes on us, and what should be accounted for in our plan. The other thing, obviously, is, do you have the resources to do what you're thinking of doing? And those resources come in a lot of different flavors, as you can see there. Money is obviously something that's critical. Time, driven leadership, collaboration there with partners. We know how great the need we have in our areas and across the country. It's critically important that we collaborate well with other people of goodwill. So again, just some things to think about. For those of you who don't know, I don't think I said it at the top, but I'm in the software business of information technology world. It's been my career, and Agile is a big part of what we do now in the software development. And it's almost humorous. It's a struggle in the software world to define what you mean when you say you're done. It is not trivial. You could be done if you're a developer. Your code, you've written code, it runs on your, compiles and runs on your machine. I'm done. Well, not really. Does it integrate into the rest of the application without breaking it? So there's another level of testing there. Okay, that's done. Well, not really. We've got to do more testing on it. And then we pass that. And then, oh, no, it's still not done because the end user, the customer, hasn't tested it yet. They're the ones that have the final vote. So it's real easy. It's difficult to come up with goals and objectives. Certainly, we have a problem with it, that you can define what you mean by done. Is it when National Council produces Module 7? We wanted to, because a lot of our goals were support and encourage type goals. So Module 7 around the home visit. Yeah, we can track how many copies were downloaded or shipped out, but we don't know how many conferences actually in their conference meetings opened the book up and used it, for example. So it can be challenging. So the last piece is when you get in the execution phase. This is a tool we use called Monday.com, sort of a workflow visualization. This is just an example. I broke down by, as you can see there, initiation, planning, execution, closure. So typical project management phases. But you want to identify who the owner is of that particular goal or objective. Are there any other people that can help? Any other committees or groups, for example? So, and you can visually track that based on what I just said about definition of done. That's very helpful. So now a little bit about the survey that we did. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Here's those questions that we asked, the what can National do to help you questions. There were 7 of them, and they were around, as you can see, grow conference members, help councils to have more conferences, et cetera. These are the top, we this question or these questions, we rank choice. Okay, you have like 3, 4, 5, however many it was, choices that people selected. And these were the top 2 under each one. Some good feedback here, a lot about spirituality, share best practices. Again, this is people telling us as national how we can best serve to help. Continuing on with Zoom and other means of doing webinars. Help the bishops, help the pastors, help seminarians, deacons tell the story of St. Vincent de Paul and why it's important, so that you can that they can help you at the local level grow and do more. Advocacy. We got a lot of, what do you mean by just world? And that kind of, yeah, you know, we talk about it, but what do we really mean about it? Or what do we really mean by that when we say that? So these are things that we're going to be taking to heart as we'll come out with phase 2 of our plan. Building more deeper, more meaningful relationships with those we serve. We got some really good feedback, and I'll probably take a tangent here. We asked for feedback. We also had a lot of open-ended questions or other, you know, you could answer, not just in these 7 questions, but through the rest of the survey. And boy, did we get a lot, thousands of responses. So tremendous. So thank you. Hopefully a number of y'all responded. We got responses, especially like the last one on the relationships. We have people say, you already asked us to do too much. We can't take on anything else. We don't want relationships with people. We just want to do our thing. You're already asking too much. We have people that say, I didn't sign up to St. Vincent de Paul to have a relationship with someone in this manner. So these are some challenges and some honest and some good feedback that we received, and that will be developed and worked over the next 3 years. And how, again, how can the primary thing, how can National help the local councils, the local conferences address those challenges? Like I said, we have a next iteration coming. And again, I've talked about this. The other thing that kind of came up in the last couple of months, we want to reinforce the mission of the National Council. It's not that people don't get it, but when you get responses like, this is not what I signed up for, then they're not fully grasping what our mission is. And that's on us to keep pushing that and keep explaining exactly what we mean by that. So that's, again, when you're developing plans at the local level, talk to a lot of people. You will learn things. So here's, and I want to very much emphasize, this is draft. This is still very much in work. We have another strategic plan meeting in the first part of July back in St. Louis, and we'll have a final version then that will then be sent out to the NCMs with the other materials. But again, so we wanted to, well, this is a visual representation, but again, reinforce the mission, start there. Missions, values, any strategic plan, start there, start with the why. Why are you doing this? And we sort of realized that we have two pillars, if you will, an internal focus on strengthening us as Vincentians, and then an external focus on those we serve, advocacy, the relationships, the services, the works that we do. And then to remember, as you are going through your plan development, some of the things we talked about, what are the needs in your area? Are you in an area that doesn't have a thrift store or thrift stores? Is that something that you would like to bring to your area? Is that something that should be part of your strategic vision? Or are you in a place that's got thrift stores out the wazoo and it wouldn't make a difference? You know, what is the need and what is the situation, the environment that you're in? Communication, connection, keep the flow of communication going for national. That's hard because to go from national to the regions, to councils, to conferences, obviously within a conference, it's much easier, but even at a district or diocesan level, that communication needs to flow both ways, both down to the local leadership and local members and back up and have that connection, have people buy in. And again, why? You know, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Do you have the resources and the relationships, et cetera? So these are things that will be taken into account, both in this plan, the next version, and in the next plan. You know, in the new, after 3 years, new president, new board that will carry into their planning process. So this is what we have right now. And again, draft. We still have our same focus areas. This is a phase 2. So focus areas are still the same. Some of the goals are still the same. Others are completely different. So again, the intent right now is to not, in this seminar, is to not dive into each of those. But I just say that to, this will be coming, we'll flesh it out. We will add more objectives and meat, if you will, to these goals. Like I said, in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll have a version out to you. 13 July is our deadline to get it out to you. So we'll kind of wrap up with a couple. Well, like John mentioned at the top, I'm also on the board of DSC and chairing that strategic plan committee. Same kind of thing, 5 focus areas, and then a number of goals, which I don't have shown here underneath that. DSC, is many of you know, obviously is number 1, very important to the people in our region because we're on the front end of disasters. But we stood up the DSC Corporation just a couple years ago. So our first focus area was realizing that we're a startup essentially, and to try and put a floor there, put an infrastructure in place so that we can sustain what we're doing going forward. So there was goals and such around that. And then you can see some of the others. Risk was another very, very critically thing for us to call out at a broad level. to manage, because we're dealing with government contracts, which are, if any of you out there have done that in the past, they're a different animal. So anyway, there's a lot of risks that we need to mitigate and manage, again, as being a startup. This was, I like this plan. This is from Cincinnati, which is, I guess, is still current, yeah, through 2023. As you can see, they have the mission down at the bottom, which is the National Council's mission. I think they changed one word. They have sort of a logo or not a logo, a tagline: to bring faith alive by serving one another, upward together. So that you can see the visual elements that kind of orient yourself. Okay, this is what's important to the Cincinnati Council, and then you can see how they broke it out by care and culture, capacity, and then objectives and goals underneath that. Here's one from FEMA, believe it or not. Yes, they do have strategy behind what they do. This is their current plan. Again, highlight, spell out what's the mission, what are your vision, what are your values. So that's on there. Broad goals. They don't have focus areas, but roughly the same as you can see there. And then objectives up underneath that. Here's CGI's plan, current plan, going back a few years, so they're wrapping this up. But again, you can see the common elements that I hope are have percolated throughout. Why are you doing this? What is your mission? What is important to you as a conference, as a council, as St. Vincent de Paul? What's your vision? What are your values? What guides you? And then what is important to do to meet all that? And you can see they actually had 10 strategic goals broken out. Some of you probably have seen this before, but around formation, around youth, twinning, the Vincentian family, solidarity, etc. So, and then they have this visual on the far left there, which is interesting. God at the top, us at the bottom of the cross, and then how important formation is to us as individuals, and our spiritual growth and our search for holiness. And then advocacy cross cuts all of that, and then service to the poor is what connects us with God, service to those in need. So, so I got just wrapped up here, just some resources that I've either used or used in one way or another, either directly or to help me make some decisions in our committees. I would say you can, Google is full of ideas on strategic plan. I would focus on being agile. So look for something that recognizes that recognizes that things do change. We changed a few things in the current plan. We deprecated some initial original goals and objectives. We also added a completely new goal around safeguarding and objectives around that. So keep that in mind. Obviously, we're a nonprofit, so if you can find something focused on nonprofits, and they are out there, do that. National Council of Nonprofits, Bridge Span Group, and there's even a template that I found, and as far as I can see, it's free at Smartsheet, but they have everything laid out in a huge spreadsheet of things that you could go by and template as you develop your plan. And the last slide.
Brian,
Yeah.
if I can hear with a question, there's a question. They may have missed this, but when do you think the National Strategic Plan will be made available to the NCMs? Because we want to model ours locally on what national's goals are for the next 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And that's, I appreciate that, because anytime hit me up or that's important for us. Yes, we're more than happy to share that with you. My answer to that is in the middle of July, you will have the high level focus areas, goals, and some of the objectives. So basically, you will have that going out in the middle of July. Now we might put some polish and make it look better and things like that between July and Houston. But you'll have an initial cut of it then, so about a month. And then the final version, hopefully everyone will approve it. And the final version will be available in Houston in August. And once we have, like I said, once we have it in an actual document that is emailable, I'll be more than happy to distribute that out. The last slide here, so open to other questions. I think just summarizing just what we've talked about. Start with the why. Start with what's our spiritual center, which is our why. That's what separates us from other. We're not social service agency. We're not social workers. We're not just a couple of people doing good at a church parish. We're joined together for our own spiritual growth. We're part of a national and international organization that's been around for 180 plus years. Talk to people, get feedback. What do they think about you? What do they think about your local environment and things that are important to them? Try, and it's hard to, when you come up with goals or objectives, make them where you can measure them, and then as best you can, and then be sure to track and adapt and course correct. Be agile. I would recommend not going any more than 3 years in your plan. Things just, the old 5-year or longer strategic plans, I don't think those are as valuable anymore. You need shorter term focus. And then we're from National, we're here to help, right? No, there's plenty of resources available both through us and in other areas. So please use them. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time, and I'd be happy to help where I can. So with that, more questions or?
Anybody have any questions for Ryan?
Brian, this is Ron.
Yeah, Ron.
I sent a message to you. I don't know. I think most of the councils across the country have experienced the same thing. There's so much money now out there that has not been tapped into. Financial is no longer, it seems, for most of the councils, an issue. The real challenge tends to be, how do we help our neighbors properly access the billions of funds that Uncle Sam has made available, that they have a real problem accessing? And I know there are certain organizations that do it, but there are so few. So is there something that maybe we as a helper of our neighbor can help them access those dollars that are no longer coming from our parishioners or for whoever supports St. Vincent de Paul, but they're really out there. They're unspent billions, and it's horrible. Our experience is that, and we talk to the local political forces in our region, in our state, in Tennessee, and they tell us the money's there. The people aren't accessing it. So any ideas that maybe from national to educate us on how to help our neighbors properly get the funds for rent, utilities, whatever it may be that Uncle Sam has provided that's unused?
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, there's a number of ways to tackle that. One, we do have some resources on the website that, like the CARES Act and, those sorts of details. A couple other things. It's funny, some of our, again, those open-ended survey responses we got, some people would say, yes, national, please, exactly what you're saying. Find people for us that we can collaborate with in our area, and so on and so forth. And then others said, that's not something national can do because we need to do that locally. But anyway, yes, we can help with that. I would say two last things on that is, first of all, through DSC, or Disaster Services Corporation, that is a large part of what DSC does is in disaster case management. So have that work cases with people that have been impacted by disasters, and FEMA can only fund a very small amount. There's a lot of unmet needs. So we work with them to find money to rebuild their roof or to get them furniture or whatever. So we do exactly what you're talking about with disaster case management. And the last thing I would say is we will keep trying to encourage this away from this transactional, just paying somebody's light bill, to this relationship. That is exactly how we can really get there is, okay, you need help filling out forms, knowing where these forms are. And we could absolutely help those we serve do that. And that is a relationship.
Yeah, Ron, I do want to say that so much of this is a bureaucratic nightmare that's based on the state level and even the county level, that if you have somebody that's willing to dig in and do some research on the county website, state websites, where this stuff is available, that would be your best bet. And then, as Brian mentioned, so much is walking these people through the paperwork. And that you're almost like a social service agency at that point, just telling them, helping them fill out forms and getting them through the process and through the follow-up process that's required in a lot of times. Okay, anything else? Any other questions for anybody? All right, then. Brian, I want to thank you. Great. You got to go off mute, Ron. Did you want to say something? Take yourself off mute.
No, I'm just saying, live long and prosper, as
Okay,
Dr. Spock would say to everybody. This is good. Thank you.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks, Brian. Great presentation. I hope everyone enjoyed it and got something out of it. I'm sure we all did. And all right, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting now. So everybody,
thank you, everybody.
Participating.
God bless. Thanks for all you do.
All right.